Hello, and in today's video we're going to do some sharp focus on this, the 1.5-year-old DS920 Plus from Synology. You might be looking at this video because you're thinking about it on Black Friday or Prime Day or Christmas sale or any sales, or maybe you're just thinking about making a plunge onto a brand new NAS and you're thinking about this even though it's about a year and a half old. So in today's video we're going to go through the good, the bad, the software, the hardware, and hopefully help you decide whether this device still deserves your data right now. So for those of you that aren't aware, this is the Synology DS920 Plus. It's the latest generation of their kind of middle of the pack, prosumer features without the heavy price tag solution in Synology's portfolio. The DS920 Plus is part of kind of a series of devices in 4 bays that have been knocking around in a very similar iteration for this for a few years, way way back to like 2015, give or take. And this is a quad-core Intel Celeron based NAS. It arrives with 4 bays that can be expanded. It arrives with support of like 98% of the Synology application DSM 7, and ultimately it's a device that we have noticed in the last 12 months or so appears whenever there's a big sale knocking around. And even though this is a family series that get refreshed every 24, maybe two and a half years within its iteration before a new generation system comes out, the 920 has been spectacularly popular in the 18 months or so that it has knocked around worldwide. Now, right now, not in sale or anything, the price tag knocks around the world for about £500 or about 550 to 600 American dollars to about 900 Australian dollars, and then you got your euros. So the bulk of Europe, it knocks for about 600 euros to about 650 depending on which region of Europe you're looking at, and then you got Canadian dollars knocking around for about 750 Canadian dollars. So a lot of you might hear that number and say, that's not cheap. That's by no means a low number. That's actually quite a lot. And I agree with you. A lot of you out there looking at budget solutions just for a bit of multimedia, it's a bit high. But once you look at the general scope of network attached storage devices, you do find that that number is actually quite well placed. It's a good target number for those of you that want a little bit of everything. Plex Media Server, hyper backups there, backing up to USB cloud, NAS to NAS, and more. Synchronizing with your third-party clouds, your Dropboxes, your Google Drives, taking advantage of virtual machines, taking advantage of surveillance, taking advantage of media over DLNA, your music, your photos, your videos, that kind of stuff. All of that in that price tag for about that, £500, using my own country, at least here, mark is actually pretty much the sweet spot for most buyers that want to move away from cloud and onto something a bit prosumer. However, this device, as mentioned, is about a year and a half old depending on where you are in the world, and a number of you might be thinking right now, even if it is on offer, should I take the plunge or should I hold back a little bit there, because it is a decent bit of whack when it comes down to it. So today I'm going to talk a lot about this device. I am going to go into the software later in the video. I'm going to talk about reasons it's still very good right now, and a few little reasons why it might be looking a little bit tired, a little bit older, maybe a little less appropriate to you, and hopefully from this you decide whether you should go for this device. So straight away, the hardware inside is actually still pretty good for 2021, bearing in mind this is a NAS server, and therefore the components have to be a lot more efficient, they have to last a little bit longer, they've got to conform within that price tag there, and the CPU inside there, that quad-core Celeron, is still pretty good for your money. It handles transcoding, it can do a little bit of VMs, it can multitask very well. It's got AES-NI encryption behind it, and it runs Synology's latest software, DSM 7, very well indeed, particularly for the compact nature of it. And that CPU in conjunction with the 4 gig of memory by default is actually pretty darn impressive, not only for the price tag, but just for how well DSM 7 ekes out a lot of its performance from it. Also, this device, particularly the 4 bays, was some of the earliest generation to take advantage of those NVMe slots to allow you to install little NVMEs inside to improve the performance down the line. Now, whether you take advantage of that on day one or you're going to take advantage of that later on, that kind of upgradability is actually quite handy, particularly when drives like this are regularly on sale. The likes of the Seagate Ironwolf series, the likes of the WD Red SN700 series. These NVMEs allow you to vastly improve the performance of your device later on. So when you are buying this, if you are slightly worried about its ability 3, 4, 5 years down the line, do know that you can scale things up. Talking of scalability, you can expand the storage on this device. So again, it is a 4-bay, but you can knock on another 5 bays later on with the DX517. Arguably, not the cheapest method. That expansion alone knocks around for about 300, 350 nicker. But still, nonetheless, it's nice to know that you can expand this storage and not think to yourself, I don't really want to flash the cache when it's only 4 bays. That you can upscale that later. Also, in terms of storage, this is one of the Synology solutions that arrives with something called SHR, Synology Hybrid RAID. That's when you can mix and match the drives inside. Now, obviously, you're not going to do that on day one, and I will touch on this a little in the software tutorial in just a moment. But with the RAIDs inside this, maybe on day one you fully populate with it WD or Seagate hard drives, 4 TBs or something to keep it budget, and a few years down the line you start running out of space. A normal RAID configuration like a RAID 5 or a RAID 1 will not allow you to mix and match the drives. If you try to introduce larger drives, the system won't see it. It will only see the amount of capacity that's available to the smallest drive, and by that I mean you could put 3 10 TB drives inside this and 1 TB. It will only ever see every drive as the smallest available drive, so 1 you're going to lose out. SHR allows you to mix and match larger drives, so if you did put in 10 10 10 1, you would still have to have 10 TB of safety net there on the RAID, that redundancy, but you'd be able to take advantage of the other 10 terabytes on each of those extra drives. So again, a huge amount of scalability and ability to really conform your storage in the system's lifetime, even in this device that's about 18 months old. Now, another thing to bear in mind, when this arrived on the scene, the latest generation of the software, DSM 7, which at the moment is looking trademark, it wasn't even available, but it's one of the best devices in their desktop series outside of devices that use Xeon processors and stuff like that to handle DSM 7 and its graphical capabilities. DSM 7 runs great on this. In fact, why should I talk any further about that? Let's flick over to the software. Taking a closer look at what you see when you log into the Synology NAS, you can see that even though the DS920 Plus is a little bit more of the affordable end of their entire portfolio, it has to be said that it's still an absolute banger of a NAS, showing off a lot of features and functionality. There's DSM 7 in all its wonderful glory, and straight away I've already got all the apps to show you. So remember, this is one of those NAS devices that supports Synology Hybrid RAID. That is like a traditional RAID configuration where you've got your multiple drives, but bearing in mind that SHR lets you mix and match different kinds of drives in terms of speed, performance, and when it comes to upgrading later down the line, making things a great deal easier. In terms of volumes, you've got support of things like snapshots there in the background, and of course BTRFS being a file system of choice, meaning that things like background snapshots on the shared folder level are considerably easier. If we have a look at any of these shared folders we've got created here, we can go ahead and do lots of different features and functions directly from within the file manager. All of it possible on this relatively affordable NAS. Then you've got the more tailored level aspect of things when you want to deal with different kinds of files, photos, video, music, all of them are pretty well covered on this system. At the lower end, it has to be said that probably of all the different multimedia applications, music is the one that's maybe not treated with the priority with the height of the others, with Audio Station looking a little bit dated compared to a lot of the other apps, but still providing a lot of the features and functionality, as well as the inbuilt DLNA media server that helps you with universal plug and play and Digital Living Network Alliance devices like PlayStation 5, like Amazon Fire TV, and more. And indeed, if you are looking at those sort of services to stream your media, do bear in mind that there are lots of applications supported there on the Synology platform. They're one of the few apps out there available on Amazon Fire TV. And then you've got things like VLC Media Player and DG's UPnP application for Fire TV, all of which allow you to enjoy the media on your NAS. Let's not forget Plex Media Server too. I'm sure a number of you are looking at a NAS like this during maybe a Black Friday sales event, end of year sales event, or Prime Day, who are considering this NAS. And I've got to tell you, in terms of what you're paying for, this is a great little Plex Media Server. It's not going to smash out much of the 1080p HDR sort of content and higher, but But if you're looking at traditional H.264, this is going to do a lot of that multimedia. And in most of the tests that we've performed previously, this device has managed to knock through the bulk of our 1080p and early 4K stuff very easily, and even playing back of movies with the scraping of metadata in Plex Media Server without a Plex pass is still very much possible here, with all of that information readily available using the default system tools that are available to you included in your price. If you don't want to go for Plex Media Server, as mentioned, with those applications supported on the likes of Amazon Fire TV, Android and Apple there, we can go straight into Video Station, their own alternative to Plex Media Server, with no paid extras. The whole system lets you take advantage of that transcoding, has a very similar design and feel to that of Plex Media Server, with all of the features such as the scraping of metadata, the gathering of information, cast list, description of episodes and more, all being made possible within Video Station without any paid extras and all kept in-house. Next up, you've got photography, and of course, in the previous versions of Synology DSM, not just on the 920, you had Photo Station and Synology Moments, both of which have been amalgamated now into Synology Photos. Synology Photos takes advantage of the bulk of the features and services of both of those platforms, with a few things still yet to come. On the 920, you've got everything from GIF and live photo viewing and playback. You've got the ability to really go particularly deep into the metadata of the images that you utilize, with the different things that you, the cameras, be they smartphones or more, all being retrieved from that, and all of this being done offline. On top of that, you can go into the albums mode, and the 920, I'm pleased to confirm, takes advantage of person recognition, where you've got the ability to find photos of people that are tagged within the albums of your NAS, and go ahead and give them names, and then all of those photos for both the past and the future will be uploaded and tagged with those people to give you the ability to catalogue your database, and all of this being done with faces being recognised. Remember that, not the names of the files, but faces being recognised. And again, all of those features and functionality, and if you are amateur or even, semi-pro photographer that wants to share your files and photos with other users, be it shoots that you've created that you profit from, as a business person, or once you want to share with family members and friends, all is possible from this interface here, with lots of different timeline views, smart filtering, tagging and more. The 920 still, much like a lot of NASs with DSM7 and Synology Photos, has yet to implement the smart tagging application that was available in Moments, which is a bit of a bummer, but hopefully that is going to be coming, and they have increased the level of file formats in photography that are supported in Photo Station that weren't available when the application first launched. Moving away from multimedia, you've then got how does the 920 run for surveillance, and I'm pleased to say that it does run very well. We've already attached a couple of cameras to this for another video that's coming up soon, and again, we've got that pan tilt zoom control there, so we can go ahead, and if I move my arm there in the background, you're able to see right there that we're all running fine with all of this happening in the web browser. There are desktop applications out there, but you don't need to use them. You can just go ahead and manage all of that in the browser, and the 920 seemingly has the oomph and power in the back end to do it. You only get 2 camera licenses, but again, that's not really exclusive to the DS920. That's something that's pretty much the standard on 95% of Synology NASs, with the ability to go back into the old timeline views and look into the past there. There's me this morning getting all set up for work. It's that straightforward. And again, all of that is ready and available straight off the bat there. So again, lots of features, lots of functionality for surveillance, and lots more that you can add in its own dedicated app center. And so many tools are supported on the 920, there's a very good reason why the DS920 still continues to be one of the hottest NASs in their lineup. It's looking a little dated, it has to be said, in terms of its hardware, but in terms of software support, it still does a banging job, with great support in hyper backup to connect to NAS backups, NAS to cloud services, and with that dedicated USB backup tool that the system arrives with, you can go ahead and make sure that you've got a multi-tiered backup solution in place. Ignore that, I had to pull out the drive for another video. But with the ability to create tasks very, very easily featured on USB, or if you're going to be creating new tasks that take advantage of backing up between other NASs, cloud services, and more. It's all featured here. You've even got access to the more enterprise level stuff in the form of Active Backup Suite, which not only allows you to back up physical servers, virtual machines, Linux servers and more, you've also got support in the Application Center by supporting the likes of Google Workspace and Microsoft 365, all built in. It's a great system there that allows you to take advantage of, I would say, about 98% of the hardware and software available from Synology. And although in this video I've barely scratched the surface of things like synchronization with cloud by bolting on cloud storage, hybrid share that allows you to bolt on that C2 service, download station, and many, many more applications all supported on this system, right the way down to virtual machine support and container support with their own dedicated applications, the 920 in terms of software has still got a lot to be said. Other good things to talk about is the fact that this system also doesn't feature any of that drive locking that we've seen recently. Synology, with a lot of their enterprise level systems recently, particularly rack mounts, have started saying that you can only utilise their hard drives, which is something we're slightly worried is something that's going to affect stuff in the future. This NAS doesn't feature that. You can use any old SATA drive from that compatibility list, which is extraordinarily large. So there is a lot to be said for this device in 2021 in terms of what you're getting for your money. And if you can see discounts, where on Prime Day earlier in 2021, we saw discounts on this of about 10 to 15%, which isn't a small number. We saw lots of discounts. We highlighted lots of them. And of course, here on the channel, I am going to be doing what I did last Black Friday and Prime Day here. I'm going to be making a video every day in an article highlighting the best deals that I've seen out there for you guys to go for. But it's not all going to be good. There are reasons not to go for the DS920 Plus. I think if you've stuck around with me in this video for this long and you're that close to pulling the trigger, stick around a little bit longer, because it's not all roses. First and foremost, again, it's a constant annoyance. This system only takes advantage of 1 gigabit Ethernet, which I know a number of you might go, I don't care, my router's 1 GBE, my switch is 1 GBE, I'm not going to be putting out more than 1 GBE, my external internet connection's not going to do all that. But a number of you want that scalability, and we're seeing not only a lot of systems starting to arrive, and a lot of routers as well, particularly from ISPs as well, arriving with 2.5 gigabit Ethernet connections on them, but we're also seeing Wi-Fi 6 grow exponentially. We're seeing a lot more advertisements on TV, we're seeing a lot more hardware taking the extra steps to highlight Wi-Fi 6. Indeed, even the latest Amazon Fire Stick features Wi-Fi 6, as does the latest generation of consoles. So all of these systems getting faster and faster, and you own a private server that's limited to 1 gigabit Ethernet, that's a bit of a bummer, And yes, it's got 2 ports, and yes, you can link aggregate, but that would require a switch and a managed switch, and there's a lot of messing around that a lot of the less tech-minded want to knock around with. Another thing that people are less keen on with this is, although all the great stuff I said about those NVMe slots at the bottom, bear in mind you can't use it for storage. You can only use it to improve the read and write performance inside this device, which is key there. You can't create a storage area with these NVMEs, which means that although they're super fast, they're only going to be superficially beneficial, and they're only going to be improving performance to files that already exist on the hard drives. You're not going to be able to access that area of super fast storage for super fast VM, super fast this, super fast the other, which is a real shame. And lastly, it's worth talking, but this also gears a lot more towards USB. This system has got kind of limited utility for these USB drives. There's a USB on the front there. Got a couple of, we've got another USB there on the back, and on the face of it, they're great. Stick on some external storage and bang, you're done. But apart from backups, there's not a huge range of things you can do anymore. Now, you can still attach UPSs. You can still use a very small number of network adapters that can only go to 1 GBE. Even I think USB printing is largely absent, and a number of different USB hardware peripherals that were supported in previous generations of Synology software are no longer supported on this system. You can't attach new and improved Ethernet adapters. You can't attach Wi-Fi 6 adapters. There's all kinds of things you can't attach to this. And to make matters worse, it's USB 3.2 Gen 1, which is 5 gigabits per second, which on the face of it might seem fast enough. but with more and more external drives with SSDs inside, can push out significantly higher than that. That's a hell of a bottleneck for a device that arrived in summer of 2020, when, you know, we saw devices already out there in the mainstream that were providing 2.5 gigabit Ethernet solutions at 1 GBE prices, USB 3.2 Gen 2 at USB 3.2 Gen 1 prices. So it seemed that Synology, although it had reined things in to keep within that price box, you know, within line with its predecessors like the 918, the 916, these seemed like very strange choices that maybe will be readdressed and improved upon in a follow-up to this, perhaps the DS922 Plus. But I can't see that arriving till at least spring of next year. So if those three barriers that I mentioned there, the 1 GBE, the NVMe limitations and the USB limitations we've seen in current upgrades in DSM-7, don't sound like your bag, you might not like this. But apart from that, they make up a very small percentage of reasons why this should be purchased. It's a great box, and the 920 is probably one of their best 4-base they've ever released. And although it's regularly in sale, they don't do that because there's something wrong with it. They do it because it's their Reebok Classic, it's their Adidas Black, it is the constant recurrent and most popular NAS, I would say, in their portfolio, and they're not making it too shy a thing to be known about. But this has been, should you still buy this device in 2021, and particularly now we've got Black Friday sales, Prime Day sales, end of year sales, and more. So if you are interested in this, again, there'll be links in the description and the free advice section as well. And again, do bear in mind, we cover most of the sales sections in this, and we do generally find this on sale in multiple locations. So if you're curious, ping us a message. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.